So I know you're reading today from the book that is coming out March 22nd, Bequeathed,
Yes.
the Beaumonts, book one.
Yes.
Can you set up what we can expect to hear from the book and also the scene?
Yeah. So this is the first book in a new series following the Beaumont family. So this book centers on West Beaumont, who is the eldest son and has just inherited the title. He is the Marquess of Hampton. And also Lady Priscilla is our heroine, and she made an appearance in my first series as a side character. So now she's getting her own moment. And
Nice.
um, she is a very young widow. She's 23, but she is a Dowager Duchess now. And so she's kind of re-entering society after her mourning for the first time and is really looking to kind of start over. Like her family had, very high aspirations for her. She's the daughter of a Marquess herself, and they wanted her to make this great match, and she did. She's now a Dowager Duchess, but she's looking to spread her wings. And West, our hero, is very much wanting to change the way his family has operated. And so he's also looking to kind of get away from some of the expectations that were previously placed on him. So they're both kind of in this place. The scene I'm reading is going to be chapter 8 in the book. And so, one piece of context I think would be helpful before we begin is that one of Priscilla's kind of character quirks, I guess, is that when she hears music, it's very emotional for her. So, when she hears kind of like an orchestra tuning up or something like that, she kind of gets this wave of emotion and she tears up, and it's embarrassing to her. So
Okay.
that's just a piece of context there. Another evening, another ball. It was still the first week of the season, and Priscilla was already more than eager for it to be over. The only reason she had even attended tonight's soiree was that she was still seeking out candidates for the affair that she desired. It was too bad the only man she felt drawn to was the one she refused to consider. But she had genuinely enjoyed her conversation with Lord Hampton the other evening, feeling that in a way she had found a kindred spirit, and she found herself recalling the ease she felt around him often in the last few days. Looking around her, the ballroom was beginning to fill as more and more members of the ton made their way through the receiving line. Across the room, Priscilla spotted her cousin Alice, who was in her debut season. Surrounded by other young ladies, Alice was tittering behind her fan. If the glances towards another young lady standing nearby were any indication, it was most likely at that poor girl's expense. It was like looking into a mirror at herself 4 to 5 years ago. A shiver went down her spine, but she was not surprised. Alice had been raised in the same manner as Priscilla, taught to view herself as elite and above most of the others around her. And as the daughter of a second son, she knew her uncle was pressuring Alice to make a good match and help the family financially so that they would not be so dependent upon her own father. Frowning, she took a step forward to speak with her cousin and almost ran into Lord Hampton himself. Lady Priscilla, he said with a slight bow of the head, we seem to keep running into one another. Yes, almost literally this time, she quipped. Do excuse me. No excuses needed. I should have been watching where I was going. But it is remarkable that we keep finding one another after not having truly known one another before, he said thoughtfully. I hope that's not a bad thing, she teased. Most people tend to find me charming now that I've reformed my competitive ways and biting tongue. His lips twitched as if he were trying to suppress a smile, and Priscilla couldn't help thinking again how much she liked the small crinkles that appeared around his eyes when he was amused. Not at all, he replied, but we should move out of the way unless we intend to partner for the first dance. It looks like the band is about to start playing. Looking up at the musicians in alarm, she realized Hampton was correct as she observed one of the violinists place his instrument beneath his chin and raise his bow. Oh, if you'll excuse me. Alice now completely forgotten, she turned away abruptly. Though Priscilla knew she was being rude, she quickly made her way to the adjoining drawing room so that her eyes would not betray her, creating the need for an explanation should she tear up in front of the Marquess. A mere minute later, when the music began, she did indeed begin to well up and took a moment in the empty room to compose herself. Unfortunately, just as she was preparing to rejoin the other guests, Lord Warrington stepped into the room. Oh, Your Grace, I was just looking for you. How about that dance that was mentioned we should have when we were at the Westons? Merd. She had really been hoping he either wouldn't remember his threat to dance with her or would fail to attend tonight's soiree for some reason. Think. How was she going to potentially find a way out? The last thing she wanted to do was dance with the man, and she certainly did not wish to encourage his pursuit. Out of the corner of her eye, Priscilla saw Hampton walk past the thankfully still open door. "My Lord Hampton," she called out, waiting for an agonizingly long second, desperate to see if he had heard her and would return at her call. When he stepped back into view and gave a quizzical lift of the brow he was always smoothing, she almost collapsed in relief and spoke before fully thinking. "There you are," she said much too brightly. "I was about to look for you. Are you ready for our dance now?" He looked confused, but blessedly took a further step into the room. "You're already engaged to dance?" Warrenton asked, brow creased in frustration. "Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm afraid you're too late to claim this one. I've already promised myself to the Marquess. I do hope you understand." Warrenton made a grab for her dance card, and Priscilla had a brief moment of panic as she knew the line for this dance remained empty. "Your dance card says otherwise," the Baron said curtly. "My fault," came Hampton's voice. Stepping up beside Priscilla, he gave Warrenton a placating smile, and she immediately relaxed, knowing he had caught on to the situation and was playing along. "We made a verbal agreement when I first saw her Grace this evening, and she had yet to pick up her dance card." "You did ask me to pencil you in once I had it, but silly me forgot," Priscilla added, looking up at Hampton gratefully. "I suppose it was an honest mistake," Warrenton said grumpily. Turning towards Hampton, he added, "Didn't mean to step on any toes, my lord." Hampton bowed his head in acknowledgement, and the other man left the room. "Oh, thank you," Priscilla said, wilting into a slump next to her savior. She reached out and impulsively placed a hand on his arm, feeling its warmth even through her gloves and his sleeve. "Truly, I can't thank you enough." He placed his own hand atop of hers, looking at her intently, and her breath stuttered. The only thing that saved her from making a fool of herself was catching movement out of the corner of her eye. Turning to look, she saw Lord Percy approaching. He, too, had insinuated earlier in the evening that he would be seeking her out again later. Oh, dear God, not another one. Hampton looked up at her exclamation and examined the man making his way towards them. "Another of your many admirers," he drawled. "Quick, help me," she said, beginning to panic. Then Priscilla acted without thinking once again, which seemed to be a pattern that evening. Surging on to her toes, she grabbed the back of Hampton's neck before drawing him down into a kiss. All thoughts, including the impending encounter with Lord Percy, fled from her mind. The only thing Priscilla was capable of focusing on was the soft press of his lips against her own. It was as if everything in the room around her faded, and she knew instantly that she was in trouble. West was lost. Nothing in the world existed other than the feel of her soft lips and the press of her body against his. When she pulled back a mere centimeter and looked at him with shock-widened eyes, he fell helplessly into their depths. "Priscilla," he whispered. He was still somewhat dumbfounded when Lord Percy's bumbling intruded upon the moment, snapping them both back to attention. Lady Priscilla jumped back as if his arm, which had come around her back at some point, had scalded her. "I'm so sorry, Your Grace," Percy said, stumbling backwards, clearly shocked to have come upon her in an embrace. "I did not realize you were seeing anyone. I will leave you with your sweetheart." The man quickly departed, still looking a bit dazed. "Oh dear," she said in a small voice, lifting a hand to press her fingers against her lips. "I'm afraid I acted without thinking. I only meant to deter him, but now he believes you are courting me." "So let him think it," West managed to say after his breathing returned to normal. He could still feel the ghost of her lips and was loath to use his own should it quicken the fate of the sensation. But more than anything, he wanted to reassure her. He should leave you alone for a while now. No harm in that. "Yes, but—" She was clearly still distressed, so he reached out to place a hand on her arm and ground her. The touch was electric and had the opposite of his intended effect. Her eyes jumped up to his, and she pulled her lower lip between her teeth, causing his gaze to focus there. "Oh, what a mess I've made," she cried, turning away from him. "Yes, I did want him to leave me alone. I want them all to leave me alone, but I didn't mean to implicate you. I acted without thinking and now will cause a scandal for being so brazen in public. She quickly turned back his direction, and he could see how agonized she truly felt by the furrow of her brow. And if people believe you are pursuing me, you'll not be free yourself to pursue another. Now that was a thought. West shook his head, pulling himself fully back into focus so he could see the beginnings of an idea through. What if they did believe that? He said slowly, speaking his thoughts aloud. What if we continue to let everyone think we are seriously considering one another? Surely the word is already spreading. You know as well as I do how quickly gossip moves at a ball. It would already be difficult to counter, so let's not even try. Lady Priscilla looked puzzled. But you don't wish to be with me. We both established the other evening that we are the last people the other wishes to consider, as it would please our families too much. Exactly, was said, fully seeing how it could work. It would please our families. If our mothers believe we are pursuing a relationship, they will leave both of us alone. No more pestering. And then the men who are after you only for your status and wealth will be deterred. Understanding was beginning to settle in, and the distressed look was leaving Lady Priscilla at last. I'd have freedom from worry of compromise or pursuit of gentlemen I don't desire, she said with a gleam in her eye. Exactly. Let's simply pretend to be in a relationship so we can have some space to breathe and no need to deal with others' expectations. The more West thought about this idea, the more he liked it. His mother would stop suggesting he find a wife now that he held the title, and he would not need to be on his guard around those who might be looking to land him. It was true he had less to recommend him than Priscilla did, but as she had said to him at the Westons, he was an eligible Marquess. Now he just needed to convince Lady Priscilla of the plan, but she was starting to look worried again. I'm not sure we'll be able to pull it off. It means we would have to attend several ton events together and be seen out and about in society. Better and better. The thought of being around her as his body was still awakened by her kiss sounded like an appealing prospect. I think it could work, but I understand if you want to think it over, he told her. Why don't we meet in Hyde Park tomorrow afternoon, and we can discuss it on a walk? We should be able to talk things over a bit more freely there than in a crowded ballroom. You're right, she said. I'll meet you at 4 in the afternoon tomorrow, and we can decide how to proceed then.